You ever been here? She says she needs space. She says you've changed. But deep down, you know, you didn't change. You just stopped chasing. Still, you're confused. You did everything right. You were loyal, patient, kind. You tried to fix things, but somehow it only made her colder. What you're experiencing isn't love. It's emotional manipulation. And most men never even see it coming. Now listen, this video isn't about hating women. It's about understanding psychology. Because when you understand how influence works, you stop being controlled by it. Today we're breaking down the invisible game that plays out between men and women. Why men are so easily manipulated, how it happens, and how to build unbreakable masculine boundaries that protect your peace, your frame, and your future. Stay to the end, because once you understand this, you'll never see relationships the same way again. Most manipulation doesn't start with bad intent. It starts with biology. For thousands of years, men were protectors. Our survival depended on one instinct: keep the woman safe. If she was scared, the tribe was in danger. So men evolved to respond instantly to a woman's distress. That instinct still runs your system today. When she's upset, your body reacts like an alarm. You feel tension, guilt, a need to fix things. You can't relax until she's calm again. But here's the problem. In modern relationships, that same instinct becomes emotional leverage. A sigh, a cold tone, a withdrawn text, it all triggers your need to restore peace. You start apologizing, over-explaining, bending over backwards to make her feel okay. That's how guilt loops start. Then comes empathy. You feel her emotions more than your own, so you ignore your truth to avoid hurting hers. And finally, the validation trap. Her approval becomes your oxygen. You don't even notice when you start sacrificing your boundaries to earn it. This is what I call frame collapse. When you abandon your own reality to live inside hers. You stop leading, start reacting. You stop saying what you mean, start saying what she wants to hear. And every time you do that, you lose a little respect, a little attraction, and a lot of power. Real strength isn't about being unfeeling. It's about holding your ground when emotions ripped. You can love her, but never lose your frame. Here's where things get real. Manipulation works because it targets your biology, not your logic. There are 4 tactics you'll see over and over again. 1. The victim frame. She reframes responsibility as pain. You're so cold. You're making me feel unloved. It's a trap disguised as vulnerability. One that turns you into the villain every time she's emotional. When you buy into it, you start apologizing for things that aren't wrong. You trade truth for peace, but peace built on guilt never lasts. 2. The guilt loop. It's her favorite weapon, because guilt is the fastest way to control a man who wants to be good. She doesn't need to yell. Just a quiet, "I thought you cared." Your instinct fires. "I have to fix this." You bend, she relaxes, and the pattern locks in. 3. The withdraw and reward cycle. She pulls away, you panic, you chase, then she rewards you with warmth. A smile, affection, attention. It feels like victory, but it's addiction. That unpredictability is the same mechanism casinos use to hook gamblers. 4. The comparison game. The most subtle. She brings up another man, a coworker who really listens, an ex who used to surprise her. It's not random. It's psychological warfare. She's testing your confidence. If you get defensive, she wins. If you stay calm, she starts questioning her own narrative. All of this works for one reason. She's playing emotional chess while you're trying to play checkers. You're reacting. She's scanning for leadership. In the next chapter, we'll talk about why her brain does this and how your biology feeds into it. the psychology behind female manipulation. Here's what most men never understand. Women don't manipulate because they're evil. They manipulate because it works, and because their psychology rewards them for doing it. You see, male and female brains evolved for different survival goals. Men are wired to protect. Women are wired to secure stability, emotional, social, and material. Back in the tribal days, a woman's safety depended on her ability to attract and keep a high-value man. She couldn't fight predators, so she had to use social intelligence, persuasion, emotional cues, and influence. In other words, she learned to move the world without brute force. Fast forward to today, and that same instinct is alive, only now it's emotional instead of physical. When she feels unsafe, emotionally, not physically, her subconscious deploys manipulation, withdrawal, guilt, comparison, validation testing. All of it is just her nervous system scanning for strength. She doesn't say, "Can I trust you?" She says, "You never listen." She doesn't ask, "Are you solid?" She stirs chaos just to see if you'll stay calm. That's what men don't get. These are not random emotional storms, they're tests of stability. The problem? Most men fail those tests not because they're weak, but because they confuse empathy with surrender. They think, if I fix her emotions, she'll feel loved. But every time you collapse your frame to comfort her, you teach her that chaos controls you. You're not reassuring her. You're proving she can move you at will. That's frame collapse in action, when you abandon your reality to live in hers. Real masculine energy doesn't resist emotion. It absorbs it. You don't need to match her chaos. You need to stand so still that her storm has nowhere to go but down. Once you understand that, you stop reacting. You stop negotiating your truth. You stop bleeding energy trying to fix something that was never broken. Because her chaos isn't the problem. Your reaction to it is. Let's get brutally honest. You'll never fix what you refuse to see. So let's talk about the signs. The subtle, psychological tells that you're being emotionally manipulated. Sign 1. You're always the problem. Every disagreement ends with you apologizing. Even when she started it, even when her behavior crossed the line, you're the one saying sorry to keep the peace. That's not peace. That's submission. This happens when she flips the narrative faster than you can process it. You confront her calmly. She cries. You express a boundary. She says you're too controlling. You catch her disrespecting you. She accuses you of being insecure. Notice the pattern? Her emotions override your logic and you fall in line. Sign 2. You walk on eggshells. You stop being yourself around her. You measure every word, filter every joke, censor your truth, just to avoid triggering her next meltdown. That's not love, brother. That's fear. And when a man lives in fear, his masculine energy dies quietly. You can't be protective and terrified at the same time. Sign 3. She controls with distance. This one's subtle but deadly. She starts pulling away. Fewer texts, colder tone, shorter calls. You panic. You chase. You double text. You start giving more. What she's doing, consciously or not, is controlling the emotional rhythm. She withholds affection to create uncertainty, then rewards your compliance when you re-establish her comfort. This is called intermittent reinforcement, the same psychological principle that keeps gamblers hooked on slot machines. You never know when you'll get the reward again, so you keep playing. Sign 4. She uses words to twist reality. You say one thing, she reframes it. You express a boundary, she turns it into an attack. You try to discuss an issue, she floods you with emotion until you forget why you started. It's called emotional reframing. and it's manipulation at its most advanced. Because it forces you to defend your tone, your timing, your phrasing, instead of your truth. And once you're defending yourself, you've already lost the frame. Sign 5. You feel drained after every interaction. You can always tell the difference between connection and manipulation by energy. Real connection gives, manipulation takes. If every conversation leaves you tired, anxious, or confused, you're not in love. You're in a power struggle. So what do you do when you realize it's happening? You stop reacting. You stop explaining. You stop proving. The antidote to manipulation isn't aggression. It's awareness. Once you see the game, you can't be played. So, you've seen it. You've realized how easily emotions can twist your truth. The question now is, how do you rebuild your frame? Let's start with what a frame actually is. Your frame is the invisible world you live in, your beliefs, your values, your emotional reality. Whoever's frame dominates controls the interaction. Most men enter relationships without one. They adapt to her mood. They shape their opinions around hers. They confuse being a good man with never upsetting her. But you can't lead from a frame you don't own. Here's the rule. She feels safe when you don't collapse. Not when you agree, not when you surrender, but when you stand firm. When she throws emotion at you, your job isn't to fix it. It's to hold it, to be the calm center when she's spinning in the storm. That's the foundation of masculine stability. So how do you rebuild your frame? 1. Stop reacting. Every emotional jab is an invitation to chaos. Decline it. Breathe. Respond slowly. 2. Reestablish your truth. What do you believe? What do you value? What do you want your life to represent? Write it down. Live it daily. 3. Detach your worth from her approval. The minute you stop seeking permission to exist, you become untouchable. 4. Reclaim solitude. A man who's comfortable alone can't be manipulated. Solitude sharpens awareness and rebuilds your confidence like nothing else. When you hold your frame, something magical happens. The emotional storms lose power. You stop being pulled into her world and she starts orbiting yours. That's masculine polarity. That's leadership. Let's clear this up. Emotional detachment doesn't mean not caring. It means not being controlled by what you care about. The world tells men to be sensitive, emotionally available, endlessly understanding. But what that really means in practice is be easy to influence. A truly grounded man can feel deeply and still hold his line. He can love, but not worship. He can listen, but not obey emotion over logic. When she's angry, you don't mirror her tone. You lower yours. When she tests your patience, you don't explode. You smile. When she tries to guilt you, you don't explain. You let silence do the work. Because silence is the sound of self-respect. Detachment is not distance. It's power under control. It's saying, I see your emotion, but it doesn't define mine. When you stop letting her emotions dictate your behavior, 2 things happen. 1. She respects you more. 2. She feels safer, even if she fights it at first, because subconsciously every woman craves a man who cannot be emotionally hijacked. You want to know why the so-called bad boys have magnetic pull? It's not the tattoos, not the attitude. It's that nothing she says can shake their self-image. You can be kind without being a pushover. You can be loving without losing your spine. You can care without collapsing. That's emotional detachment. Not coldness, but clarity. And clarity is what women follow. Here's the final transformation. Moving from awareness to dominant emotional leadership. You've seen how manipulation works. You've seen how biology and emotion shape behavior. Now it's time to turn that knowledge into power, because awareness alone is nothing without action. So how do you embody this new strength? You start by mastering 3 levels of masculine control. 1. Control your energy. Your energy is contagious. If you show anxiety, she feels unsafe. If you show calm certainty, she relaxes. A man who controls his tone, posture, and breath controls every room he walks into. That's why kings didn't need to yell. Their stillness commanded respect. 2. Control the frame. Every conversation is a power exchange. Either you lead the direction or she does. When she tests you with emotion, humor, or contradiction, don't explain or reframe. Example, she says, "You're so selfish." You say, "I take care of myself so I can take care of others." She says, "You've changed." You say, "Growth looks like that." Never argue from her reality. Redefine it. 3. Control the endgame. Never fight for approval. Always walk toward peace. If someone needs you to lose yourself to love them, it's not love. It's dependency. A real man doesn't chase validation. He builds a life that naturally attracts it. He doesn't need to control women. He controls himself. Because that's the paradox of masculine power. When you stop needing to prove it, you finally have it. There's a silence that comes after you've seen the game. After you've lived through the emotional chaos. After you've realized that most of the pain you carried wasn't love, it was manipulation disguised as care. You stop trying to explain yourself. You stop arguing with emotions that don't belong to you. You stop chasing peace in people who profit from your confusion. And what's left is clarity. This is the part no one tells you about, the peace that follows power. Because when you reclaim your frame, you stop needing to control everything around you. You become like a mountain, unshaken by the weather. She can cry, rage, test, withdraw, and you stay grounded. Not cold, not cruel, just centered. You understand that women test not to destroy you, but to feel you. They crave your stability the same way you crave their softness. But the moment you trade your strength for comfort, attraction dies. You don't blame them anymore. You simply lead differently, because being a man isn't about resisting women. It's about mastering yourself so deeply that no emotion, no manipulation, no test can pull you off course. That's the essence of masculine power and calm, not chaos, and you are not here to be understood. You are here to be unshakable. That's the energy that changes everything. You want to stop being manipulated by women? Here's the truth. You stop being manipulatable. You set your standards. You build your purpose. You keep your heart open, but your boundaries sharper than steel. And you live in a way that says, "I don't need approval to be powerful." Because when you embody that, the games end, the noise fades, and life gets beautifully, dangerously quiet. That's when you finally step into what you were meant to be. An awakened, grounded, masculine man. If this message hits something deep, don't just nod, act. Share this video with another man who needs to hear it, and if you're ready to rebuild your frame, subscribe, brother. This is your awakening. Welcome to the movement.